You know that feeling when you get something new and you just immediately want to hook it up, take it in and see how it sounds? I've done it 1,000 times, whether it's a new guitar, a new amp, a new speaker, a new mic, a new keyboard. I plug it up and I just play with it, and that's awesome. But it's in those first initial few minutes that we can really get lied to. Here's a story about that. This was my favorite vocal mic. I used this thing for years, and it really sounded good. I made some cool records, I thought, with this mic. Not only that, a lot of people made some really cool records with this mic. I never really second guessed it, even when labels are asking me what my mic collection is, and I don't have a lot of the typical mics that a lot of people have. This is what I use for vocals 90% of the time, and I loved it. A lot of my clients really loved it, and a lot of stuff I did on the way into it, I really loved it. Always sounds good. Now, if you've seen another one of my videos, you know this thing broke on me. According to the service paper, it looked like a capacitor somewhere stopped working, that got replaced. It works now, and it sounds like it didn't the day I got it. And honestly, it sounded like that right up until it just didn't work. So testament to Manley's customer service, because it's on point. The bummer about that is, when this stopped working, I had about a month and a half of straight vocal tracking that needed to happen. If we know anything about the current times that we're in, we know shipping is a nightmare right now. Just in general, getting stuff from anybody is really, really hard, and it's not Manley's fault. Not their fault at all. But in the meantime, I had to purchase a mic. I couldn't find one to borrow. Nobody had anything that I could use for that amount of time. So I had to break down and actually purchase something. The idea was to purchase it for the amount of time until the Manley got fixed and then send that other one back. Enter this bad boy, the Soyuz 017 tube condenser. Now, it's been rare that I've come across a piece of gear that like literally changes the way that I work. This did it. And what's sad, as far as expensive mics go, and yeah, these are both fairly expensive. I'll put the corresponding prices on the screen right now. The price difference between these two mics does not reflect the difference in how they interact with a mix. This is where it gets a little tricky. Now, if you're here just for the comparison, go to this timestamp and you can hear it in the mix. In my head, when I just got this mic, I knew I loved it. But I kept wondering, when I get the Manley back, am I really gonna notice a difference? Or is this one just shiny and new? And it was my brain playing tricks on me, trying to make me not feel so bad about having to spend that much money because I had to, or I was gonna lose a lot of business. Flash forward, the mic is here, obviously. I got to slap it up on a session, and I got permission from the artist to kind of go through those tracks with you. Let's go give it a listen. I've had the chance to use both of these side by side a couple times at this point. This is the song where I have permission to kind of show you those differences, so I'm going to. Suffice it to say, yes, this is one instance that I'm going to show you, but it is representative of what I've seen happen in these other cases with this mic, or with these two mics rather. Basically, I would set them up in my vocal booth, one right on top of the other. So I got them darn close. I'm using the same chain for both of these, same EQs, same compression. Now, if we switch over here, we can see in the comments which is which, the Soyuz and the Manley. So they're going through the same stuff. The Pro Q I have pulled up, this one's blank, and this one was an attempt at EQ matching, and that looks absolutely gnarly, and it sounds gnarly too. The only thing that's happening here is they're going through the same vocal effects, metric halo, which is something I put on every single mic that I record. Same settings going on here, and then RVox, the same settings on it. And yeah, I'm compressing it pretty hard because I want to bring out whatever differences there are so we can hear that. If we're listening in a mix contest, let's listen to it like we've mixed it. This is not a mix, however, this is a board. This is what happens after the band has left. And I know I've gotten comments on some of the other videos where I talk about raw tracks. There are plugins, but that's okay. Raw to me is what happens in the moment, because if you're in a big analog studio with a lot of stuff, you're not gonna not put a compressor on or an EQ on because you want the raw track to sound the way. It's no different. I don't see plugins any different than hardware. Do they do exactly the same thing? No. But we should be using them as if it's hardware, to not be afraid to do something because we don't want to lock ourselves into a sound. That's the point. Especially when something like players are involved and you're trying to get like an emotional reaction out of the sound that they're hearing in real time. So Now, I have already gain matched these two tracks here. But let me show you how I'm going to do that. So we're going to go to Audio Suite, Other, Gain, and we're going to analyze this first one because I'm basically matching the Manley to the Soyuz as far as gain. So I see our level is minus 12.8. So let's go over here and we'll analyze minus 16. We have to do 3.9, result 12.8. So set it back to 0. We'll analyze this one, 12.8, 12.8, and that's pretty close. And I'm doing peak. These aren't going to be exact because they're different microphones, and that's the point. They won't phase cancel, but I can get the peak loudness to the same spot to help give us a good, what we're hearing isn't just a gain change. And we have the same volume here, the same vocal effects are going on, the same metric halo, and the same R comp. These went through the same preamps and the same compressors, so what we're hearing is as close to a one-to-one as I can get it. So we're just going to hear the differences in the mic itself, and we can be our own judge. So just like getting a new mic, plugging it up, seeing how that vocal sounds, what do we hear?
We come down to this planet from endless space.
And this is the Manley.
To earth and madness, but this I know.
Sounds pretty good.
We were born with inner glow.
Now, that sounds great to me. There's cool high in there. There's a presence in her voice, but it's not harsh. Let's switch to the Soyuz and listen to the same section.
We come down to this planet from endless space. To earth and madness, but this I know. We were born with inner glow.
And keep in mind, this is exactly the same take. So there are not different performances. Same performance, same singer. There's a big difference here. Let's go to a different section where she's a little bit louder. Maybe we could pick this apart. So let's go back to the Manley.
Every ember barely breathes till we give the air it needs, and each hope remains asleep till we dare to take a leap.
It sounds very focused.
Every ember barely breathes till we give the air it needs, and each hope remains asleep.
It feels like there's more body. I can hear her body in the Soyuz mic. Whereas the Manley, I feel like I just hear what's right here on her head. I'm going to quickly shift back and forth.
Every ember barely breathes till we give the air it needs, and each hope remains asleep.
You can really hear the differences when you go back and forth like that. Here's the part that really got me. Once I add the music, if you're just listening to these two things in solo, you're going to pick the Manley because it sounds brighter, it sounds better. And that brightness kind of translates to, that's going to cut through a mix. Let's listen to it in a mix. I'm going to switch back and forth from Manley to Soyuz. So let's start with the Soyuz. I'll flip.
Every ember barely breathes till we give the air it needs, and each hope remains asleep till we dare to take a leap. Rising up remains asleep till we dare to take a leap. Rising up and reaching toward the sky, up and reaching toward the sky, up and reaching toward the sky.
To me, the Soyuz sounds so much more controlled, where regardless of the singer, and she has kind of a smooth voice anyway, and like I said, this is the one I can share. So imagine these accentuated with somebody really getting it as far as vocal performance goes. It gets abrasive fast, and it's really hard to pull out that abrasiveness without pulling out brightness. Now watch what I could do with the Soyuz if I really gas this high frequency.
Up and reaching toward the sky.
And bring out the air in that. Now let's go to the Manley. If I do that same move.
Up and reaching toward the sky.
There's just something gnarly up there that just is not going to sit well. So if you have to add brightness to somebody's voice, it can get gross fast and out of control.
And reaching toward the sky. Up and reaching toward the sky.
Now where this really is interesting is when you toss something on like fresh air and we really start pushing some stuff, which awesome plugin by Slate. And this is just again to show here's what we can do. So let's move this back where we had it. We're going to reset our EQs. I'm literally pulling it down so they're matched. So with fresh air.
Up and reaching toward the sky. Up and reaching toward the sky.
It just seems like that Soyuz just wants to play better in that mix.
Every ember barely breathes.
Here's the Manley.
Every ember barely breathes till we give the air it needs. And every ember to earth and madness, let's travel far above the clouds and make a star. To earth and madness, let's travel far above the clouds and make a star. Let's travel far.
I just find that so interesting. It seems like the Soyuz is so much more personal and it's there. It's almost like a warm hug and the way it sits in the mix. And if we're just listening to these two in solo, I would pick the Manley. If we're just listening to these adding a little bit of compression, I would probably still pick the Manley. But it's not until I've gotten to the mix stage where I've really appreciated the difference and why this is the one I'm keeping. The Soyuz 017 tube. Now there is a FET version of this. Really, really cool if you're doing like more pop vocal stuff. But man, and that's about half the cost. But man, if there is budget for the tube version of this is a really, really special mic. I've got to try it on a lot of different vocalists. Male, female, a lot of different genres, and it's insane. Don't get me wrong, the Manley is a fantastic mic, and it is got me to a whole different level as far as vocal sounds and what I could do. You don't know what it is until you've had it. You don't know what else is out there until you've gotten to know your stuff so well. Going into a mix and how a vocal is going to sit into it, and a lot of times when you're stacking a whole lot of vocals on top of it, differences compound exponentially and you can get something super abrasive and grainy, and then you're just going and trying to EQ it out and you're trying to soften it and you're using soothe and you're trying to do all these interesting EQ moves. Whereas most of the time with the Soyuz, I'm not touching it. It's done. That's it. I can add a little top end, but it won't get that abrasive nasally thing going on. We're splitting hairs. All that to say, this is the one I'm keeping. Now that in no way means that Manley made a bad mic. That mic is dope, but it doesn't make sense for me to keep both anymore. And if I have a choice of which one I'm gonna keep, I'm gonna keep this one. That said, if you're interested in getting a mic to get you to the next level, I'm gonna put my Manley up for sale. And if somebody wants it, I hope it treats you the way it treated me over the last many, many years. And kind of the benefit here is it just got back from Manley. It's basically as good as new. But you're going to get it for a used price if you want. So I'll put that listing on Reverb. If you guys are interested in all in that, check that out. If you're interested in picking up a Soyuz, like I said, this is the 017 tube condenser. There is a FET version of this, which is much, much cheaper. I plan on picking that one up too because I like this one so much and I can kind of see how a FET version of this would be really cool in certain situations. So I plan on picking that FET version up, but I'll put a link to this in the description as well if you're interested. By the way, some of you have asked what the setup in here kind of looks like, so let me show you around. So here's what I have in my face all the time. The camera rig. Of course, there's the desk behind me, amps set up. There's always something going on in here. But I did want to share that because we do tend to listen to things in solo and we tend to make choices about what's better, really having no basis for that comparison. So it's important to take a listen to things like that in a mixed context. And it is kind of sad to see something that I've had so intimately attached to every mix or every piece of music that I've done for years, and it's time to see that thing go. But somebody's gonna get some good use out of that mic, and it's good to know when it's time to kind of cut those ties, because Sometimes it doesn't make sense to hold on to assets like that. I'm Resident Loser Jeremy. Stop listening in solo. See ya.